Hey there, folks. Let's go to CSSBattle.dev and do the daily target. What's the puzzle today? Three elements. So, great. Three circles, each with a dash in the middle, I guess is the way to say that. And each one very particular. It's possible that this could be done just on the body with three gradients. Two gradients. Two gradients. One radial gradient and one conic gradient. Possibly a single linear gradient, or probably either. My preference, because I used to say it all the time in these videos. The conic gradient is my favorite of the gradients. It still is my favorite. I just don't mention it so much. All right, so let's go. We'll load up the nested template, and then we'll start. And we don't need anything except for the background. So we'll start with radial gradient. Radial gradient. 1Q instead of the keyword circle. And transparent. Yeah, we'll start transparent. 40 pixels, let's say. And and it's a pure black. Okay. That might impact how we view this. So there's a circle. All right, let's get the numbers right. And I'm going to put green in the distant as the last thing, and that actually is a stand-in for background color. 50. And then what do we got? So more like, what, 30? 20? 25 maybe? 25, great. How about 50? Boom. Okay. Now, that's going to be at 50% on the X, so that's the X background position. And we need to give it a width. How about 100 pixels? So now we've got it repeating. So now we increase the distance between those circles by increasing the width of that background. And ideally, when we expand this, it will align and then also not show us little bits and pieces of the circle creeping. So that's, I think we got it. All right, so get rid of that. All right, so let's try the conic gradient technique. Conic. And so it's short and narrow and not very tall, right? So it's from here 180 to 215. So what is that, 35? So 35 pixels over. 35 pixels over, and then maybe something like 10 pixels tall. And we want that green color. 75%, and then black. Now you can see that up in the top. We're going to do the same technique. We are going to give it a position, and in this case I would like to make it be the same, so it's got to align with the middle dash. That's the goal, and then that will help us determine. So 200 is too much, 100 is not enough, 170, 180, maybe 180, and then lower 200 pixels, too low, 150. 140, so now we're getting close. 145. No, 135. No, 140, 41, 42, 43. 42, 142. Okay, so then it's telling us the app value is not big enough. So we've got this dash, but it's not as big as it needs to be. We can see that diff now. All right, so a little wider, 40 pixels wide, and then 15 pixels tall. 15, no, 16. Okay, now, when I give it a width, well, you'll see. Now we got dashes. So I think 4, 5. That's it. Let's submit and see if that's a winner. And it is. So what do we got here? So this kind of gradient, I think that this is all correct. Okay, let's minify and replace for that solution. Do we want to do it another way? Is there another choice? I gotta say, the fact that each of these is pretty identical. Well, let's back up and let's see if we can do it as a linear gradient. And I'm going to comment this out. I might try to use the numbers that are in there. So linear gradient, how would we do that? The linear gradient would be, it suffers from, yeah, I'm going to not talk about it. All right, so we go black for 40 pixels, and then transparent for, well, what's the width there? It's 150 pixels, right? So that means that this, well, I guess we don't need that. Oh, I can do it as repeating. So I could do repeating linear gradient from 0 to 40. And then if we know that that distance between here and there, the overall width is 150 pixels, then it's 150 pixels. There it is. So we can kind of see that happening. But we need it to be, what do we need it to be? We need it to be at some position. 10 pixels, so 10, 20, 30. That looks right. And you'll notice it's too tall. So I think that that's 100% in terms of the height. In terms of the width, no, the width, and then give it a height, 10 pixels, and then no, actually no, we know it's 15. It's 16 pixels, 60 pixels, because that's from the app value. So, and then repeat Y. No, repeat X. There it is. So that's another way to do that same shape. And with that technique, because we need that to be transparent, because we have that funky repeat, we put this one first, and then the second, the radial gradient goes last. So then we replace these transparent numbers with the green. And then we nuke those things, minify and unit replace, and that's another technique. Not a better score. And then I find myself wanting to see what would it be to do width border. Of course, I didn't keep any of the numbers around, so I have to do this from scratch. Border 10 pixels solid. Okay, and then let's put a we need green on the background, and then a display flex. So 100, 80 down, 80, 82, 83, 84, 10, 10, 20, perfect. Let's give it a little more border. Is it 30 pixels? Again, I did not keep track of what those numbers were. We're gonna subvert one of these. So we'll just do one of these. Okay, okay. We got this crazy height and background 40. And it's the width 40. It is. And then let's turn it into a circle. Border needs to be 35 pixels, is that right? Or 25? Yeah, I think it's 25. So then we go, what, 30? 30? No. 40, 50. 50. There it is. And we go ahead and we replace those paragraph tags. And then we need to do gap. How about 10 pixels? How about 20? How about 25? 26, 27, 28, 29, 30 pixels. Beautiful. So then what? Well, we know we could do these dashes on the background. Can we just do that? What's the conic gradient again? We could do that, which is the green. Well, if I already did it, so I'm going to copy and paste this. Copy. And then go back to the original best one. Okay, this is going to be a mess for a minute. Let's steal that conic gradient. There it is. Clump, and just put that on the body background. And then nuke that. And we got it, because we already wrote it. Why not reuse the code? So minify, unit replace, and submit. Kind of interesting. Not better than that. The two, oh, nope, can't do that. I was attempting to use the ampersand, and I do not have enough brain power to think that through right now, but this is certainly a way to do it. So I guess the upside this, because this color that they've chosen for these circles is black, like, well, we can use that. I suppose we could do things like a dashed border, like there would be ways to do this with a dashed border with some other element and, you know, somehow trick it. Other clever ways, but that's good enough for now. So what's our top solution? It's this guy here, which is 2 gradients. Don't get much cleaner than that. All right, it's rough out there. Once again, stuff out there. Go make a web page. Be kind to yourself. Be kind to others, and see you again later. Bye.